Welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and with me two stalwarts of the Indian insurance sector, Mr. Tarun Chugh, the Managing Director and CEO of Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance, and Tapan Singhel, MD and CEO of Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. So life and general insurance with beautiful mountains behind us and 2024 on a trajectory where this year is supposed to be very interesting. I'm going to start with you, Tapan, in terms of your reading of how the insurance sector will play out given the trajectory that the Indian economy is on currently, the kind of growth we are seeing all across. What's your own reading at this stage?
See, Siddharth, the general insurance follows the economic growth, or it also follows if it goes down. There's a lag, but that's how the trends are. And as we have seen, whatever data we've seen, the economic growth looks good. So one, I again foresee a good year for the general insurance in terms of growth. It would be a double-digit growth that we shall see this year. But more than that, I think what we should observe is the kind of work being done along with the regulator and the ministry in terms of a lot of transformations in the industry. Like how do we reach to every village in the country? How do we set up platforms and protocols for transparency and ease of doing business in terms of getting licenses? So you will see a lot of excitement in this year, more than that you have seen for the past, let's say, 10, 15 years. So this year is going to be very, very exciting from an industry perspective.
If it's going to be very, very exciting from an industry perspective, is it going to be disappointing for consumers from a rising premium perspective?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Not really. Not really. So, in fact, it's going to be good, Siddharth, the way I see it. Whatever rising of premiums had happened is happened already, and that is because of COVID. Uske baad, in fact, the rates have come down. And you should be happy to know that life insurance term plan rates are one of the lowest in the world. And even if you go back to neighboring countries like Singapore or go to Germany or most of Europe, the term rates are actually one of the lowest in the world.
Term rates are one of the lowest, and in so many other sectors also India is very price competitive. But given that, is it an issue that penetration is perhaps also at the lower rung rather than at a much higher rung?
So it's a very interesting question on, and I'll answer it in a different way to you. We measure penetration, and that's what usually gets quoted based on GDP. But if you look at the number of lives that we get covered, around 22 crore lives are getting covered. If you look at
what number of policies? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, it's one policy per head. 22 lives are getting covered, 22 crore lives. If you look at the median age of India, it is 29, which means that 50%, with the 70 crore people are less than 29 years old.
Correct.
So those won't be interested. Only people above, because you have families, insurance comes into play.
And income also to
income as well.
Yeah.
So out of 70 crores, 22 crores has already got some cover. So it's not so bad if you ask. So it's not the 3.2%. The problem is the cover per person. That is less.
In terms of the amount insured.
Amount insured. That has to go up.
Okay. And how does the amount insured compare with that? Are there any numbers that you can say?
Yeah. So the amount insured, see, every year you can say the average ticket size tends to go up by about 5-7%, which is kind of like the GDP growth, a little bit inflation, you can say. It's not that the rates of insurance are going up, so that's not what the consumers should think. It is just the amount people are buying that is going up.
Okay. In PPP terms, and I'll come to you on that, where do we stand in terms of overall insurance from the amount insured perspective?
Amount insured, see, it's a little difficult to just say, I know it will not look very good. But largely when you compare with the developed markets, where the PPP makes sense, there are a lot of tax breaks in that, one after the other. So I think we should be happy with the fact that India, which used to be very low in terms of number of, the total amount of insurance, now we are number 7 in the world. We just crossed Germany. So in terms of the, in terms of the growth rate, it's one of the best. most large companies of countries have come down, except for US and India. So that is, we should take recourse to that.
Okay. The same point, just add to that debate, because the overall sense about how costs are going up, yet the points that your colleague just made, how significant is this comparison that he just shared with us?
See, what we have to think about is that what does insurance do? I think let's start from there and why it is so critical to have a look at this debate that we are having right now. So let's look at Sikkim floods, or this time in India you had 8 catastrophic events. 8 in a year, imagine. Chennai, Sikkim, you look at it, every part of it. Now when this event...
And that perhaps adds to the climate risk premium, but we'll speak about that separately.
Yeah, but first understand the impact of it. No? Premium, I think, what it contributes. So let's look at any such event which happens. Now, insurance, if a 100 rupee loss happens, insurance would be like paying currently about, let's say, 8 or 9 rupees, and the government would be giving about 6, 7 rupees. So by 84% of the money is lost. Now what impact would it have on the economy? No? And who loses this money? It actually pushes down the economy by 2% GDP. Now when we talk of India growth story, and we're very excited about the 7% GDP growth and 6.7, but in reality we should be growing much more. It's a leaking bucket that is a problem. You lose 2% because of these events, which is happening. Now, if you look at a country like US, where an event like this happens there, because they have 95% cover, their economy actually moves up because rebuilding happens, money starts flowing in. And the other point to understand is when you talk about insurance money, it is not the money which is only coming from the country. It's heavily reinsured. It's a worldwide web of money, and that comes into the country. So it's so fascinating. You have an event anywhere in the world, money from the world flows to that particular place as compensation, because that is how the whole structure
that's the way the industry
works.
functions.
Yeah, and if that be the case, then having an uninsured population in terms of asset cover is usually not very effective mechanism in terms of looking at economic. Forget about people going below poverty line. All that social issue. Let's come to that secondary. Now, if I look at countries, let's look at Turkey, or let's look at US, or let's look at what UK is doing. Or a lot of countries have ensured that they make it mandatory that you have a cover, because unfortunately across the world nobody gets up to buy insurance. If I ask you, Siddharth, puri zindagi mein, tell me, when did you get up very excited today I'll buy insurance? You would have got excited to buy a car, your shoes, your belt, house, take loan for that. But nobody has told me
so
that they
when you say make it mandatory, what are you referring to?
That, let's say if
already happening in auto, for example.
Yeah, auto is there, but let's say in auto also, about half of auto in India is still uninsured, in spite of it being mandatory. In fact, we did work with the IIB, the Central Repository of Data, and Vahan, and we got together the entire list of uninsured vehicles and put an IC also. So that is a different conversation.
50% or thereabouts.
Close to, yeah.
And is there within that, what is the segmentation in personal vehicles, commercial? Can you share
so
more
if you
data?
look at two-wheeler would be the one which is most uninsured, followed by commercial vehicle, which is more interesting, because commercial vehicle technically are more on the road, and accidents which is third party happen more on that sense. And then private, which would be there.
So what do the laws prescribe?
It's mandatory. If you get your vehicle on the road, you have to have insurance. Third party.
For those who are caught without insurance for commercial vehicles, is it like a permanent impounding, or is the law weak there, which is not?
No, it's not about the weakness of law, because it clearly prescribes that you have a fine, you have to pay a penalty, and you have to get that. But what I'm going to tell you, Siddharth, is as an industry, we have been able to, using data, put together and uploaded from IIB on NIC site the entire uninsured vehicle list of the country. And
so you have the data, but what is happening
now we have actually requested, and the government has actually circulated a circular on that, stating that we have to look into how to implement that. Now coming to the point, that's a separate topic. One is making it mandatory. Second is it has a huge impact on the economy also. And if you have a house, if you have a business, if you're an SME, if you're an MSME, if you're a house, you already it's what percentage of it is negligible.
I want to interject here. When we talk to consumers sometime about doing this, one of the things that one hears, and especially in a certain strata, is इंश्योरेंस ले ली, क्लेम नहीं देते हैं, क्लेम देने में बड़ी दिक्कत करते हैं, क्या करें इंश्योरेंस लेके, देखेंगे क्या होगा, भगवान की मर्जी है.
It's so good, Siddharth, you say so, because let me give some data. It's publicly available. You look at the combined ratio of the general insurance industry in India. It's
claim
close
ratios.
to combined is claim, expenses, and commission put together.
Okay.
It's close to 118%. For 100 rupees, that means industry is paying claims very, very well. But then why this disconnect? No, that's a separate thing. I'll take that on. But let me first put this together. Industry really pays claim very good. Second, if you look at the entire financial sector and pick up the grievance ratio, it's publicly published by all regulators, you will be amazed to know that the general insurance industry has the least grievance ratio amongst financial services all across. Yeah. So fundamentally, it pays claim well. It has very low grievances. But it is the issue of the friction, which comes when you submit a claim, where the concern starts coming in. And that is why, if you look at, I spoke about data, we were talking about transparency, putting platforms together, putting in friction-free, but the experience for customer becomes better. Friction also is a reason, because when as a company you're paying claim, as industry rather, you have to be careful to not go to fraudsters, and it's within the contract. And that process is where the issue is, not about the payment of claims. Now, having said that, if this is the kind of impact it's having on society, and this is the level that it's going to, and the cost is insignificant, and this is the impact of 2% GDP growth to the country, I think significant steps have to be taken in this direction to ensure that we are
Tarun, would that apply more to the life sector, where this kind of complaint की claim नहीं दिया जाता जी, उसमें से कई सारी चीजों को कट कर लेते, इतना पैसा पहले ही ले लेते हैं, and this happens in auto and healthcare related expenses. Is that something that...
No, not really, Siddharth. I don't know where is this coming. So, जैसे हमारा खुद का claim payment ratio is 99.2%. मतलब 0.8% जहाँ पे declarations नहीं होगी, ठीक, that is, so 100 में से मतलब एक भी नहीं छोड़ते हैं, मतलब it's something like that number. And pretty much, I think, I should also commend IRDA in the way they have been pushing that agenda. So अगर कोई issue था पुराना,
so is there a perception issue? Is there a issue that is still hindering greater penetration of all kinds of insurance in India, given the size of our population?
See, I think it's not about that. It's about एक perception जो आप है, that is about the friction that my colleague just talked about. कि कितना time लगा. So usme, if somebody jumped up and down, correctly so, and should, as a customer. But insurance is not typically a top of the mind, and that's kind of answered to you already. It's not a pleasurable product. It's not something which is top of your agenda. It is not something that sometimes benefits you directly. It benefits your family. So unfortunately, we don't think like that.
Absolutely, and viewers, I didn't know about the data that Tapan just shared, 50% or thereabouts, and within that, two-wheelers, and look at the kind of accidents and deaths that happen, and Transport Minister, Road Minister Nitin Gadkari has, on possibly every occasion when he has appeared on our platforms, the India Today group, the Business Today, spoken about the fact that this is a key issue. He speaks about road design and road safety, but imagine a scenario where half of all vehicles in India are not insured. So these are very, very scary numbers. Thanks for sharing that. Let's take up one more point, and this is the growth of the private sector insurance industry versus the government sector. Where does that stay? Because again, one of the views is that a certain section of society that is the most vulnerable is only being covered by certain government programs, and private insurance, which does much better in claim settlement and providing access to good facilities, does not do as well.
Siddharth, I love your interview and I love your questions, because these are the myths that has to be spoken about. First, let's look at the market share in terms of, and today if I look at the generation business, the private is already crossed 67, 68%, close to 70% of market share in a short period of time. I think that is very commendable. Now we talk about social sector. Let me talk about my own company and then I give data. If I look at Bajaj Allianz General Insurance company, we do crop insurance. We are one of the largest crop insurer. We cover a huge amount of farmers. We do government health business. If you look at Gujarat, it has been completely covered with us. I think J&K also we did initially in terms of when we did insurance for all. And you look at, we actively participate in all government schemes. Even the 12 rupee personal accident scheme, you will find us to be one of the leading players in the country. So this is a myth. It's very, very interesting that you bring this up, because if I look at my portfolio on the social sector, on the government business, on the crop business, it's substantial. It's about close to 30% of my portfolio, and I would be surprised to see even a government company having such a strong portfolio in social sector, the kind of amount that we do.
On the same numbers, you want to add to that?
See, I kind of in the first answer itself give you a kind of perspective. The 22 crore lives are covered. I would dare say most of the world would not have these kind of numbers. Unfortunately, the issue is not in just the number of lives. It is about the insurable interest and how much insurance you buy. But what is happening? And I should talk about what the regulator is doing, Siddharth. So they are actually not just taking the horse to water, it is also making us drink, in the sense there are discussions around Bima Vahak and Bima Vistar. These are new schemes that IRDA has been talking about, and we've all been given allocation of states. So what happens is that if somebody is not buying, and we are not a pleasurable product, in the last mile, it is about working with the state governments, implementing these state insurance plans, which are like 360 degrees. It's covering everything: life, house, health, accident, everything is getting covered. So those kind of plans are now getting structured, and commendable work is being done by the sector in taking it up to the last mile. And we will always not remain the top of mind product. That goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Hence we have to keep trying.
I'm glad that you've given us this perspective, but let's switch out of some of these perceptions and myths about the insurance sector. In your time here, what are you hearing in meetings and other sessions that you might be seeing about the India investment story?
So 2-3 things, and for that, if you Siddharth, walk down the promenade, you will see very clearly India very strongly present here. Now, that is one thing which comes. Tech companies very strongly present here, and you see a bit of Middle East, which is there. So you see a structural change in the way Davos would have been, let's say, 10-15 years back to what you see today. And I also notice a lot of positivity in terms of the way people are looking at business and the way they're looking at environment which is there. And the discussions are more positive than if I look at previous years when you would have been here. So 3 things. One, I see a very strong presence of India here and a very active presence. I see a shift happen in terms of what I would see as display when I walked on the promenade from what it would be. And I also see a lot of positivity in terms of the future and what is happening. And obviously AI is the theme.
What do your counterparts in the same industry from overseas tell you about India? The possibility of FDI. Offer us, our viewers, some flavor on that as well.
So first let me just add to what Tapan just said. See, I think India is making the effort. The central government, there's enough representation. The CII has made a good representation. I can see state governments coming in, and the corporate sector has also been there. And let me just take India as a global concept. The non-resident Indians are also very visible. So if I today look at the promenade, bases are visible more than anything else. And it is not a China plus story anymore. India is standing on its own feet. And the dialogues are around the things that India is talking about. I attended a session on digital public infrastructure. And the number of times India got mentioned, so the amount of work that has happened, see, it's getting recognized now. The fact that the democracy is showing up. So it is not that you have to now China plus one, wo nahi hai. It's about India standing on its own feet. FDI, yes, FDI will come in. There are various routes of investing in India. There can be FDI, there can be FPI, there can be just having your own branches. People are looking at it. But what you should also understand is that not that the world is in a great shape to even invest in new economies. So we should have to be patient. ऐसा नहीं है कि कल पैसा आ जाएगा. So we have to keep investing. Bajaj Group invests in coming to Davos. We've been doing that for a long time. I would encourage more and more participation. Because if participation jab tak nahi aayegi, if we're not seen, if we're not felt, it will, if we don't, the dialoguing is not about us.
Right.
So today, when another few sessions that I did around technology, and technology has been the main theme, people are not saying Shanghai, Beijing, and something else. They're saying Delhi. They're saying Bangalore. And this is verbatim, I'm telling you what people are saying. Very interesting. And otherwise, India was not necessarily, getting discussed so much. Dialogue hoga, to uske baad investment bhi hota hai, but it follows to the lag.
Well, I think that's a wonderful way to end this conversation, because it's about dialogue, it's about going out there, making the relationship, and obviously it's not instant coffee, what Tarun is saying, but I'm going to end here because I know both my guests have been very brave. It's not that cold, and maybe we will go and have a good cup of hot coffee after this conversation. I want to thank both of you once again for making the time for this conversation, and you, the viewer, if you've been tuned in, thank you very much. We'll be back with more. Until then, goodbye.
Darwin Platform Group of Companies is one of the fastest growing diversified Indian conglomerates with global footprints. It is setting up offices globally and tying up with companies across the globe for multiple sectors. The company has ventured into real estate and construction, stockbroking and finance, arms and ammunition, mining, airlines and many other sectors.